So let's take a look at the official 600 watt PCI Express Gen 5 or PCI Express PSU 3.0 cable for the GPU. So this is, like I said, the official one. I got this off Corsair's own website, paid around 25 euros. Definitely more inexpensive than going out and buying a completely new power supply. There's not really that many new power supplies out with the new power cable that, of course, is on the NVIDIA 4000 series. I have a 4090. So right now I just use the included adapter, but this one is definitely going to make it a lot cleaner inside of my case. Just one cable going onto the GPU and two plugs going into the actual PSU. And of course, just using my same old PSU that I've had for like a year and a half or so right now. I have the RM 850, so 850 watt. I bought it in 2020, I believe. So it's still relatively new. And this is the Type-4 cable. You can go to Corsair's website and see what kind of power supplies that uses Type-4. 600 watt Corsair PCI Express Gen 5 12 volt high power WR DC power cable or 12VHPWR DC power cable. That's quite a mouthful. I always kind of forget this naming, but this is, of course, the newest standard that we will start to see in power supplies going forward. And Type-4 is most of Corsair's power supplies, at least more of the recent power supplies and more high-end power supplies you can use with these ones here that has like an 8-pin plug going into the PSU. And these recently become available on Corsair. I did sign up for email notifications once these were supposed to get in stock, but I never got an email notification. They were just in stock one day. I checked and I ordered it immediately, and it was supposed to deliver already the next day. But it did take me a day extra because of, this is, of course, the holiday season. So a lot of shipment is going around. So there's a little bit of delay there. Shipped from the Netherlands to my country here in Scandinavia. You can even see here, copyright 2023, Corsair memory. Yeah, we're still in 2022 as of recording this video, as actually is the 23rd of December 2022. Certifications here on the box. So you can, of course, recycle the cardboard and so on and so on. Let's just get into it. There's a little bit of a tape and cut through it and have a closer look. And surprise, surprise, there is a 20 volt 600 watt power cable in here. Whoa, I didn't expect that. And we have a little bit of paperwork as well. That's all we have in the box. So let's just take a look at the paperwork first. I'm sure it's just some kind of disclaimer or safety and stuff like that. It's a note on environmental protection. Great, great, great. They have a note on environmental protection. But like paper waste, isn't that kind of an anti-environmental thing? And then we have like warranty guide. Great, more paper. So 24 months of warranty is what we have here in Europe. I don't think it's any different with this cable here. And we get this in a little zip tie bag. Let's have a closer look and see if the retail unit is the same as a lot of the YouTubers out there that already got a hands on theirs. And I can see immediately right out of the bat, it definitely is. Let's get it out here. Very stiff cable. I can already feel that just holding it in my hands. Very stiff and thick cable. Don't really mind that too much because you can bend it in any shape you would like to and it will pretty much almost stay there. And of course we have the controversial 12 VHPWR cable or plug, which of course some has issues of it melting, but pretty much the reason was that they had not installed it correctly or plugged it all the way in, which is very important with this cable. So make sure you plug it all the way in. Also, after you're actually done managing your cable, make sure it is plugged in all the way. For my specific 3090, it was very easy to do. I got a very satisfying click when actually installing my cable or my adapter inside my GPU. So I don't really understand why people can have issues with that. But of course, there are different kinds of cables out there or plugs out there. So it could be different from each specific manufacturer, and some plugs are also kind of recessed into the GPU, so could maybe be a little harder to actually plug it in all the way. But a very tiny cable, kind of almost comical that this cable can actually supply 600 watt, or this plug can supply 600 watt when it is so small, even compared to like the 8-pin connectors on the other end. You can just see how tiny it is here on the left. Small tiny plugs. Feel like maybe they are too small-ish. I kind of wish it was a little bigger, maybe just the size of these plugs here. See, there's a lot of spacing between the 8-pin connectors that you go into the power supply. There's not really all that much space with this like 12HPW whatever cable or plug it is called. But yeah, you have the sense pins kind of zip tied onto the cable. which is a little bit of an eyesore, but definitely much better than that adapter, and a lot of cables going to those adapters there. There's a lot of cable clutter right now in my case. You can also see like the cables, there are two sets of cables, but one set doesn't go straight into the top. It's kind of a little twisted, so 3 of the cables go into the top and 3 of the cables go into the bottom, and it's the same with the bottom cable here. 3 of the cables go into the bottom and 3 of them go into the top, so they've kind of twisted it a little bit here. Hopefully this is by design, not any fault with the cable. And it's kind of a long cable as well, so I shouldn't really have any issues fitting this into any case really. So it's just shy of 70 centimeters, so like 68 to 70 centimeters in length. And the other end here, of course, goes into your power supply, your Type-4 power supply from Corsair, the exact same plug that you already are using right now with your good old trusty PCI Express cables. For each plug have one of the Sense cables connected, and actually not all of the plugs are occupied, only like 6 of them. Maybe we have ground on the 2 outer plugs here, which is not even attached. There's no plugs on the inside at all, which is definitely the way it should be. So yeah, definitely looking forward to installing this inside my case. So this is all I need inside my case to power my GPU. So let's just go install this. So this is the way it looks right now. I have the MSI Gaming Trio 4090, so that only has like 3 8-pin connectors. But of course, most of the 3090s do have 4-pin connectors, or 4 8-pin connectors rather. It doesn't look totally awful in this case because there is a little hole down here for the PCI Express cable. This is the Fantex P600S, the same as the Evolve X internally. So kind of keeps a lot of the cable clutter away. But yeah, still, it looks a little awful and would be definitely nice to install that new 1 cable that goes to the GPU instead of those 3 cables that I have underneath the case here between the PSU and the bottom part of the case. So let me just install the new cable and let's have a look at how it looks afterwards. So I have installed it inside my case now, or inside the power supply. Actually, it was a little bit of a headache to get in there. I don't know why, because the cable was so stiff. It was kind of hard to get the second plug in place because it is a little more recessed compared to like the first plug. Definitely looks nice and clean, other than of course all of the dust. I kind of forgot to film before, but yeah, definitely imagine 3 cables in there instead of like just this one here. Is definitely much cleaner. And install finally completed. You can see much cleaner, except for all the dust of course, but 1 cable just going down here inside the cable or PSU weld underneath the case, almost out of place. I just need to do a little bit of cable organizing below there, but still from this aspect here, orientation here definitely looks much cleaner and much nicer. And I kind of like having just a straight cable or a cable directly going to my GPU instead of having to use or rely on an adapter. That's just one more point of failure potentially. And so of course I made sure to plug in the cable all the way. There's no like gap between here, very important, just to make sure it is plugged in all the way. It was a little harder to plug in actually. It didn't give me as satisfying of a click compared to like the genuine one from NVIDIA or the adapter from NVIDIA, but it's definitely fine enough. And yeah, put a little force to it, make sure it is all the way in there. And this is of course all of the cables that it is replacing. So 3 PCI Express cables going straight from the power supply to this little 3-pin adapter or 3-wire adapter that I got with my 3090. There's definitely a lot of cables that it is replacing. All this cable clutter was underneath the PSU weld on my case, and only the stuff you saw was like this part here of those cables sticking out, but all of the other cables here just taking place inside of the case. Definitely much more simple. But one thing I'm not totally in love with the cable from Corsair is that the wires are very stiff, more stiff than the ones that came with my power supply. So if you're kind of messing around the cables underneath the PSU weld, kind of tucking them in place, it will kind of move the rest of the cables because it is so stiff. So just make sure once you actually tied in the cable inside your case, make sure that it still is plugged properly into the GPU, because mine was actually starting to come out just a little bit. And make sure that you make a very wide bend here on the cable so it doesn't pull down on the plug itself. That could actually also create a little bit of a drag and also make the cable not sit in there completely flushed. So with a plug that is so small, like the 12 volt HPWR cable or plug, And then at the same time, a cable that is just so stiff will put a lot of strain on that little plug there. So definitely be a little bit careful with that cable when you install it into your case. Make sure you don't pull the other end, trying to make the cable neat underneath or inside of your case, and then put a lot of strain on the plug, because when you pull one end of the cable is so stiff that it will put a lot of strain still on the plug itself. Also because there is 2 rows of cables going into the plug. So I definitely like the solution better than this mess I have right here on my desk. And also removing potentially one point of failure, which is the adapter, because yeah, there are 3 cables, 3 plugs, and 1 plug here goes into the PSU, and all of those are replaced with cable instead. And the same goes for like the standard PCI Express plugs here as well. All of those plugs are replaced with cables, so there's at least one more point of failure that's potentially eliminated. And also these plugs here are soldered in place. Not really the best solution in my opinion, so they are a little fragile actually. You can see my plug, no melting at all. I was also making double sure that it was plugged in all the way. Also after I installed everything and put my case up and so on, double check, but yeah, no melting. I've had no issues at all. This cable actually, I kind of like it, but I expect in the future when we see power supplies or more power supplies come out with this type of cable natively supported, I also suppose we will see like cables that are not that stiff, so they are easy to manage. So you won't like put that much strain on the plug itself. But yeah, that's pretty much all I have for this video. Just a video showcasing the Corsair 12VHPWR DC power cable, the official one from Corsair. But that's pretty much all I have for this time. I hope to see you again in a future video. Until then, take care.